My name is BJarke, BJarke Calvin, and I am originally a journalist. I started working with a lot of photographers doing interactive documentaries, so I've spent a long time working in photography, but nowadays I work in the intersection of photography, technology and business. I have a startup called Duckling, which is an attempt to make the internet more about sharing knowledge than sharing gossip.
How it is to be a journalist in Denmark?
It's a pretty big question because the media industry, the journalism industry changed a lot over the last couple of decades in Denmark as well as internationally. And I actually, right after my final project at the Danish School of Journalism, I actually went to work in New York. So I've spent most of my career in the US. But I think, it's if you have a job at a big media corporation like the Danish Broadcasting Corporation or a newspaper or something like that, it's a very nice and privileged job. I became a journalist because I loved the idea that you could get to talk to all these different people about their passions and their work and what they're into. So I just had an excuse to do that, basically. And I think that's a great thing about it. I think the downside is there's fewer and fewer resources to really do the right kind of, or the high quality journalism. So you don't have so much time to do interviews that really matter. On the other hand, there's also a lot of independent stuff on blogs and websites and social media and so on. So I think I went to New York in a very privileged way, you can say. It was in 2004, right when the internet was really taken off as a visual medium, where people started, YouTube came in 2005, and there was Flickr, this photo sharing service, and Facebook also came a little later. So these services that allowed you to share photos and videos started emerging, and cameras, phones, and generally cheap cameras started happening. And I was sort of riding that wave where I started producing these interactive documentaries for online, which were very based on photo and video. And so I got a job as a director with Magnum Photos, which is a big photo agency. So my entry to New York was with a job at a big US company. So I had colleagues to help me. I had a decent pay every month. So that was a different way of entering New York than some other immigrants do, where you have to scramble to make a living and you don't have a network. So when you're in that position, it's an amazing place to be, because it's a melting pot of people from all over the world, people that really want to make a difference and are great at what they do. A lot of people go to New York because they sort of made it where they came from, and now they want a bigger challenge. So there's so many skilled people there. But like you say, it's also rather crazy. You can just have full speed on all the time if you want to. So for me, it was a great place to also be when I was in my mid-20s, because I sort of knew myself, okay, and I could also, and still it was just, I didn't have kids or anything, so I could just work and party all the time, which was fine. Now I have 2 small kids and a wife, so it's a little bit different, and I think New York is not as well suited for me in that regard.
So that's the reason that you left New York to Denmark again?
Yeah, I left it for different reasons, but the main reason was my wife wanted to live in Denmark. So I followed love and not city.
How is it to be an immigrant?
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the comparison as an immigrant living in New York and then coming from Copenhagen and Denmark. I think the most striking for me is the diversity of people in New York. here we're first of all pretty alike, ethnically. Like most of us are just Danes for going 6 generations back, or something like that. 22 generations. I don't know how much. There's not as big an amount of foreign people, but it's also something about the mindset. Like we're a little more. It's easier to stick out from the norm in Denmark because everyone, more or less, there's a lot of people that think the same way and live their life the same way. And if you're a bit different than that, you really stick out. Whereas in New York, there's all kinds of different ways of living your life and where you come from and all this. So it's really hard to stick out and be different, for better or worse. I really love it. I like people that are a little bit different. I think we should embrace diversity. But you can also really disappear in a city like New York. So I think it's actually a lot easier in many ways to be an immigrant there. On the other hand, there's no welfare system to speak of and so on. So if you don't have a good job, then or a wealthy family, then it might be hard.
Tell us, what is the project that you studied?
Yeah, so my project for the last few years have been an app called Duckling, like the Ugly Duckling. It's a fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, and it's about the fact that you can really become a beautiful swan regardless of where you come from if you get a little bit of help. And my fundamental belief is that there's a lot of people out there that we can lift and make them much more amazing if we give them a bit of help. And so we've created an app which is an alternative to social media, basically, where you can build little stories with videos and photos and links and text, just like you would build a Snapchat or Instagram story. But the purpose is knowledge, so sharing knowledge with each other about something to sort of contribute to each other's development. Where there's Instagram and Facebook, I think, and Snapchat and so on, have to a large degree become about just making each other, making yourself look good, and sharing gossip, and that makes the other part feel a little bit depressed because it looks like everybody else is having a great life, much better than you have, and we want to change that. However, what we have discovered building this is that it's super difficult to change people's idea of social media, and it's super difficult to move people from one social media to another. It's like, why would you want to quit Instagram and go to Duckling when all your friends are on Instagram? So that's really hard. So we're actually right at the moment changing direction a little bit, and we're turning Duckling into a presentation tool. Instead of creating a PowerPoint when you have to do a presentation about something or pitch an investor or show your project, you can do it really quickly on your mobile phone, and you can present it to anybody and share it everywhere. So that's what Duckling is becoming in the next version. Basically, a new form of presentation tool.
But this presentation will be only through telephone. It can be in a conference room.
It can also be in a conference room, so it can be on any kind of screen. Sometimes you would want to show it on a big screen to an audience, but other times you will want to maybe sit under a tree with like 10 people, and then you could just, everybody has a phone, so you could just show it on your phone, and when I swipe on my phone, it will sync and swipe on your phone as well. So basically we're using each other's screens and connecting. And also it's gonna be instant to share whatever you've created. Now when I do a PowerPoint, I have to like export it or invite you to go to Office 360 and create a login and all that stuff. It's so complicated. And we just want you to be able to, like, with a tap, share it on Instagram and YouTube and wherever you have your stuff.
And who can be part of this this app or this project?
Anybody can use it, basically. You can download it for... Right now, we're in the App Store for iPhone, but a part of the next move is to make it accessible on every device, so you can just go and sign up and use it. We're gonna charge, I think, $3 or $4 a month if you want to do a lot of presentations. So you can do a few presentations for free, and there might be other premium features that you can unlock by creating a subscription.
So what do you think about technology today? So now
that's a big question. Well, generally, technology is always leaning two ways, a good and a bad way. And that goes back to when we built the very first tools as humans beings. You know, a spear can be used for killing an animal, getting food, surviving, or it can be used to killing each other. And fire can be used for something bad or something good. And as human beings, I think a part of our DNA is to be tool builders. And so we've always had these tools, and you know, what we call technology today is just an evolution of that. But technology as we use it today have the potential of really shaping our world in a really, really insane way that I think people don't realize. We're right on the brink of getting some really powerful artificial intelligence, and we're gonna have all these things that, you know, just changes the premise of what it means to be human. And I think we have to really think about how this can benefit all of us and not just a few. And I think one of the really, really big parts of it is going to be data. So, you know, most people, I think everyone now is aware of climate change and the issues that poses. But I think we need to be just as aware of data, because right now a few companies is collecting crazy amounts of data about us and where we are and how we behave and what we do and all that stuff. And that can be used in amazing ways to figure out how to cure diseases or help our lives in all these different kinds of ways, but it can also be used in terrible ways to manipulate us, to get presidents elected that are not democratic, all these things. So we have to really start thinking about how we use data.
If people would like to be involved or get the app Duckling, what they have to do?
So right now they can go on the App Store and just search for Duckling Knowledge, and Duckling app comes up, or they can do it in Google Play Store. The Android app doesn't do as much as the iOS app, but they can get it, and then once we update it, they will get a new one. Or they can just go to duckling.co, duckling.co, and they'll get all the information there. And then they can start doing little stories, presentations.
So we think in the future, we expect Duckling to be huge, where people will be able to take along everywhere to start doing presentations.
Yeah, definitely. There's every minute there's 1 million PowerPoints being published. So so as we speak now, there's like 1 million PowerPoints going out there, and that's, you know, 24 hours a day. So it's a pretty big market, and we want to be the next big thing in that market. So yeah, you're going to be able to expect hundreds of thousands of Duckling presentations floating around out there.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.